Awesome. Cool. Hi, everyone. Welcome to this webinar. One second. Yes. Cool. Now, in the next hour or so, I'm going to give you a lot of tips around how to ace interviews, and I'll also go over how you could, like, how you should think about writing a resume, writing a cover letter, things you should and shouldn't do during interviews. We'll go through a lot of quiz and a few questions so that you get an idea of the kind of things you will see during the interview. About myself, I'm Vic. I work as a product lead in Atlassian. I've been working there for about 10 years now. And I have been working in tech for close to 16, 17 years now. And I've worked in four different continents. I've reviewed over 2,000 resumes. This is an older number. I think it's closer to 2,500 now. I've conducted close to 600 interviews. And the people I work with, either through their interview or with their resume or the LinkedIn profile, they've landed jobs in the kind of companies that you see on the slide here. Either they've come from these companies or these are the companies where they ended up getting roles. So this is just to give you an idea. And one more thing, I have time in the end for Q&A. If you have questions, just keep posting them in the chat, and then Ismail, who's my co-host here, he'll interrupt me if there's a question that I need to answer straight away, or else we'll answer all the questions in the end. Cool. Perfect. Now, the most important thing to remember when you go in for an interview is that if you get shortlisted for an interview, that only happens when the recruiter and the hiring manager, they're very sure that you are a good candidate. So I see a lot of people who get shortlisted for interviews, but then when they go in for the interview, they don't come well prepared, or they come half prepared, or they've not done enough research about the company. And they basically ruin their whole chance that they got as a part of the interview process. So if you're getting an interview call, it's very, very likely that you're in the top 3 to 5 people who have been selected for that role. And the reason why a recruiter or a hiring manager wants to talk to you, spend time with you, is because they already think that you're a good candidate, that you're a suitable candidate. And they're just there to see any red flags. They're trying to see if what you've written in the resume is what is actually true. So don't screw it up. Like when you go in, go prepared, because these days, like getting interviews is becoming very, very challenging, let alone fearing them. Now, another thing to remember or understand when you go in for interviews is that when you go in for an interview, your technical skills are needed. That's why you get shortlisted. But during the interview, your likability, or how much the interviewer or the recruiter can resonate with you, how much they can, like, basically they're trying to see, do I want to work with this person? Like if you have gaps in your skills, they can train you later on. But if they like you as a candidate, and if they find you as somebody who they would want to work with, that's what they're looking for. And a good way to gauge that in your interview is that you will see interview becoming like a conversation and not really a Q&A. If your interview is going like a Q&A where the interviewer or the hiring manager or the recruiter is asking you a question, you're giving them very well-defined, straight answers, they're not asking more about it, that is usually a sign that it's going okay, it's not going great. But if you're having a conversation like you would talk to a friend, or say a senior at work, or a mentor, or somebody you know, somebody who's really invested in you, that's when you know the interview is going really well. And that's when you know that you're very likely to get to the next stages, you're likely to get to the next round. And moreover, when your interviews are like a conversation, it also ends up having a very good impact in the offer that you get. Say for a role, if the salary, and most roles will have a salary range, even though when they advertise, they might say 20 lakhs or 30 lakhs, like they might put a number, but most roles will have a range. And how well you do in the interview, how well the recruiter or the hiring manager rates you during the interview, will sort of determine what salary you get offered when they make you an offer. So clearing interviews is one thing, but the more rapport you build in the interview will dictate how much salary you get offered. So I'll just quickly check. Yes. So I have few questions in here. I have some trivia in here. So how long do you think recruiters spend on your resume when they're looking at it, when they're trying to do an initial pass? And you can type your answers in the chat. Few minutes, I see 30 seconds. I see a lot of, I see some C's in there, one B, a few minutes. Not so much. Okay. Let me just see if there are any more coming in. Okay. I think the thing to note is that when you apply for a job and when the recruiter is looking at your resume for the first time, it's usually 8 to 10 seconds. So you have a very short window of time where you can make an impression, where the recruiter will actually see whether you're a good fit or not. So that the first time they look at your resume is the most difficult one to crack because they are going through like a few hundred resumes in today's market, and they're only going to give you a few seconds to see if you're suitable. They won't even spend 30 seconds in the first pass. Now, um, headhunting is where you don't really apply for a role, but recruiters come to you and they try to pitch the role to you. They try to shortlist you. How many, like, what percentage of candidates do you guys think get headhunted when in the market? So I'm seeing some A's here. Yeah. So still seeing A's. Yeah. So less than A. I think Narayan has it right. Like in today's market, this is probably closer to like 3 to 5%. It's not even 10%. Rupinder, 30% is just, it only happens when there's just too much money getting pumped into an industry and there's shortage of talent, but not in today's age. It's most like more closer to 5%. 8 to 10 is also when the market is really good for the candidates, but usually it's between 3 to 5% is what you would see. Now, when you are looking for, sorry, yeah. So when you're applying for a role, when you make your application, most roles will get about say 100 to 200 applicants. These two, sorry, Bharat, you get 1 or 2 pings from HR every month for my skill set. That's pretty good. Like you're in the minority here, Bharat, then compared to most of us. So, so for most roles, we see that you will get at least 100 to 200 applicants when the job is advertised. From that, a recruiter will basically shortlist 5 to 7 people that get shown to the hiring manager. So your chances are say 2.5% if like from the pool of 200 applications. But the thing to remember is that a recruiter is not going to wait till they get 200 applications to finalize the 5 or 7. So if they find 5 candidates in the first 50, that's where they stop. They don't need to look at the remaining. So the sooner you get your resume in for a job, that increases your chances significantly. Now, from the 5 or 7 that are presented to a hiring manager, 2 or 3 get an interview, and then that basically means you have a 1 in 2 chance. And then from that 2 or 3, your chances are about 33% to get hired. So the most challenging part still is getting the interview call. After that, your chances get better. It's not that it's easier after that, but in terms of probability, your first stage where you want to get the interview call, get the recruiter to review your resume, to look at your LinkedIn, that's probably the most challenging bit in the entire process. And in today's market, it's becoming more and more difficult. So now, just do a quick take from like when I back in 2014, I used to be in, like before that I was in UK, and in 2014 I had moved to Sydney, and it took me almost 6 months to land a job, even though I had I think 8 years of experience at that time. I had worked in tech, I had worked in product companies, but because I was very new to Australia, I found it very challenging to find jobs, and there was no like the reason why I'm sharing this is like there was no crisis in the market. There was no GST. There was no shortage. Like there was no shortage of jobs. There were plenty of jobs. Tech talent was getting a lot of money. Despite that, so even when everything is going well in the market, job search can be very challenging at times. So if you're finding it hard to land interviews, if you're finding it hard to clear interviews, don't think that it's something against you or only you are the one being left out. A lot of people in the market go through this, they struggle through the process. So it's very common, but you can increase your chances. And the goal is that you do everything in your power to make sure you apply for the right jobs. Like the biggest mistake I was doing was I was trying to apply for a lot of jobs at the time. And just getting 20, 30, 40 jobs in a day is not really going to increase my chances. Even if I apply for 2 jobs that are really suitable, that is going to give me a much higher rate of success than applying for 20 or 30 jobs in a day. Now, um, like in today's market, what is your take on how many applicants, like how many people try to apply for a job? I see a lot of C's coming in. Surprisingly enough, the right answer for this one is B and not C. And part of this, why I see a lot of C's here, is actually attributed to LinkedIn and Naukri's Easy Apply. So when you go to LinkedIn, they have the Easy Apply button where you apply. A lot of people start applying, and even when you apply for a job and it's not the Easy Apply, but it takes you through to the job site of a company, LinkedIn will say that it'll show you how many. Now I think they make a distinction that it'll show you how many clicks were there and not the actual applicants. But they seem to make this sense that the numbers are much higher than what they actually are. Because when you go to a company's website, the drop off rate is very high. Half of the people, or even like 60-70%, don't end up applying for the job. Because either when, because companies will have very long winded applications, they have a lot of questions, and when people are applying, they realize that either they're not suitable, they don't have the enough, like they don't have enough skill set or enough number of experiences, or they don't have the right location. So the numbers keep dropping as you go. So the takeaway here is that, like, even if it is say A, which is 120 to 150, that in itself is a lot of competition, let alone when the number grows to 200. Now, how would you, like, in today's competitive market, and this is not really just relevant for today, like anytime when you do a job search, you are always going to face a lot of challenge in the market, because, like, especially in tech, it's like with companies getting remote or they're sponsoring people to move from one place to another, it is getting more and more challenging to land jobs. The competition is increasing, and access to knowledge is becoming very simple. So a lot of people can gain a lot of skills very quickly. And the number of years of experience is sort of is not so much of an advantage anymore, because in the past you would have to work in an industry to gain experience on certain technologies, certain tools. Now all of that has become too simple. So the 4 to 5 things that you can do, like I think a lot of people do the first one, where they try to tailor the resume, they try to write a cover letter. A lot of people also try to do number three, which is sending cold DMs. But the kind of DMs people send to recruiters and people who want where they want to get referrals, the DMs are really bad. Like people usually send out a resume telling people that here's my resume, these are my skills, and they ask them a question in the end: do you have any roles for me in your company? Nobody is going to spend time looking for a role for you. What you really need to do is tell people what roles you see in their company, send them your resume, and ask them if they would consider referring you, or ask them some open ended questions, but show that you've done the research. But if you just send them a resume without any context and just expecting them to go through your resume, understand your skills, then go find a job for you, it will never work. Even if you send it to your closest friends, it very rarely works where you ask people, is there a job in your company? That is not really a good strategy. Like I've probably only seen it work once or twice in like the 15, 16 years. So, but it seems to be a very popular one. The one, like the last two here are the most underused things that people do, which is very surprising for me, that either people are not active on LinkedIn. Some of them, they even when they're looking for a job, they don't even have, they don't even have the green banner. They don't have a photo on LinkedIn. They haven't set up their LinkedIn to say that they're now open to jobs. They have not specified what roles they are on. They don't fill out the work experience section. They don't use the about section. So one, the LinkedIn profile misses a lot of things. And secondly, people are very dormant on LinkedIn. So for 2 years, they won't post anything. The day they lose their job or the day they want to find a new role, they start trying to get the little bit, like they start trying to generate some activity, and that never really works well. So, and I'm not saying that you need to spend hours and hours on LinkedIn, but if you maybe spend like 10, 15 minutes a day trying to comment on a few things, trying to comment on things from people in your industry, it will give you a lot of edge when you actually start looking for jobs. One, it will help you build a lot of network. It'll help you ask for referrals. And three, like the LinkedIn algorithm seems to reward behavior when if you contribute to content in job searches and a lot of other searches, your name comes up really well. You start getting to the top, or you start getting filtered really well. The last one is Loom, which is sort of a software where you can record videos and share with other people. You can do that on Loom. You can use YouTube or another software. But the idea is that you need to really stand out from the crowd. So when you send a DM to a recruiter, if you send a resume, that's okay. They probably get 50 or 100 pings in a day where their a resume is sent to them. But if you send them a video, if you send them a portfolio, if you like, you need to leave a mark in their head so that they know that you're sticky. They at least spend time in looking at your video. They spend time in looking at your profile. So the goal is so that they remember you and then they review you for that role. So now, when you apply for a job or when a recruiter starts looking at your resume from the part of the application, what section do they go to first? I see a lot of A's here. The other arm has summary. So, surprisingly enough, a lot of recruiters these days, they will open your resume, try to find a link to your LinkedIn profile, and go quickly browse your LinkedIn profile for like 5 to 10 seconds, and then come back to your resume. But one place where a lot of candidates do this mistake is they don't have a link to their LinkedIn profile on the resume. And I still see a lot of resumes where they have a link, but either the link is broken or it's not clickable. And you're basically just frustrating the recruiter because LinkedIn is becoming very, very crucial, if not more crucial than your resume. So, regardless of what your resume looks like, at the top with your contact information, always have a link to your LinkedIn profile. And when recruiter goes there, have the profile updated. So it sort of complements what you have written in the resume. That's where it ends up helping you. Once they've seen your profile, if they think you're a good fit, if they are interested, or if there's nothing in your profile, then they will come back to your work experience section. But if you're much earlier in your career or if you're a fresher, then they would go to section B. So now, when you're writing your resume, there are some very standard practices that you should follow that seem like a no-brainer when you hear somebody talk about them. But when you see people's resume, a lot of these seem to be missing. Like R&R here is like your roles and responsibilities. So a lot of resumes are filled with what you do in the role, what kind of like people will say I patch Linux servers or I take backups, I'm a database administrator. Now a recruiter, a hiring manager, they all know what the roles and responsibility is. But they're more interested in seeing what outcomes you delivered, what outputs you gave, what was the impact that you had in your role. I still see a lot of resumes which are maybe 3 to 5 pages long, and nobody has time to read through that much. So 2 pages or 1 to 2 pages. One is the best if you can fit everything in a page. But if you're struggling to fit things in one page, then 2 pages is usually a good enough spot to get to. So, and most people will be able to fit their resumes in 2 pages. You don't really need a lot of time. Like you don't really need a lot of space to cover your experience. Um, and when you write your work experience section, try to use bullet points as much as possible and put the keywords from the JD. Try to use some either use AI or figure out how you want to do it. But if a recruiter picks your resume to spend time, they should feel that you're a suitable candidate. Like you don't want the exercise to go waste. That's the main thing you want to get out of this. Now, when you're doing a virtual interview over Zoom, what is sort of the most important thing? So, like seeing a lot of A's come in, I think A's like the obvious answer that you need to have a good internet connection, but and a good webcam as well. I think that's a good call out, Faisal. And the other thing that I've also realized is like I was sitting in an interview once and my I had a power cut which I was not expecting. So having a phone handy which has a lot of battery so that I could immediately switch the hotspot. And if I am doing an interview, I usually have the hotspot on and the phone job charging regardless. So even if my internet drops, I can easily switch over. Fairly basic, but I still see a lot. I've been an interviewer in a lot of interviews where the candidate had to drop because this happened to them. So, a lot of the times when you apply for a job, you get a rejection email within a few minutes of applying. Why do you guys think that happens? I see a lot of A's. A and C from there. I think a lot of people you are saying ATS, but ATS is not really rejecting you from the contents of your resume. ATS, yes. Bharat has the right one here. Like when you fill out the job application, if there are a few questions that they're asking, a lot of the questions are mandatory, and the recruiters have put in some rules on what answers they want. So, like if they need 5 years of experience in a particular scale, if they need you to be in a location, if they can't sponsor a visa. So, when they have these requirements that are hard, like that are marked as mandatory from in the ATS system, if you don't meet any of those, that is when you get a rejection email very quickly. But it is very rare still for an ATS to actually pass your resume, assess your skills for the role, and then reject you. Okay, like similar to what Sushant is saying, I think the visa question is a big one. That if you're outside like outside the country that you belong from, then visa is a very critical question where you get a lot of rejection instantly because they're not like employers are not keen to sponsor a visa. So now, when you're practicing for an interview, what is sort of the main benefit that on why you should like do mock interviews with somebody, with a friend or a mentor? Perfect. I see a lot of C's here. Yeah. So even though it's very obvious that like C is the right answer, that you it helps you prepare, it gives you a lot of feedback, it helps you rehearse your answers. mm, at least 60 to 70% candidates who go into interviews don't come prepared. It's very clear that they have some notes in their head, there are some bullet points that they have thought about, but they haven't really rehearsed, and they're trying to just do it for the first time in the interview. And a lot of them struggle, and that's why they don't clear the interview. So if you are landing interviews, but if you're not clearing them, it might be very likely that you're not preparing well for them. You're not rehearsing the answers. You're not doing mock interviews. Now, a lot of people who apply for roles, like cover letters will not be mandatory, they would be optional. And a lot of people don't write cover letters. And it's a big opportunity that they end up missing because think of your cover letter as another way to reinstate that you are suitable for the role. So if you miss something in your resume, if you think you can't write paragraphs, if you want to, if you have something like if you have a gap in your resume and you want to clarify that, or if you want to talk about something that will make you a good fit for the role, but it's not really your work description or it's not really what you did, your cover letter can be that thing. So even when it is optional, it's not mandatory. Always write a cover letter and use it to make yourself stand out because the idea is that you want the recruiter to notice you, you want the recruiter to see whether you're a good fit. They might see the resume, they might see the cover letter. You don't know which one they're going to see. So this is mainly to increase your chances. Now, pretty much all hiring companies, like the interview process looks like this. Sorry, I'm just trying to, yeah. So the interview process looks like this, where when you apply for a role, a recruiter will shortlist you. They will put you through an interview rounds where they'll assess your skills or a technical fit. Then you would go to a hiring manager. Then you would have a team fit and a culture fit. Uh, like this journey is pure is there more for tech companies like product companies. Maybe in a service company, the team fit and the culture fit might be a single round. Maybe they would just do a technical fit or a hiring manager. So some rounds might be missing, but you will have at least 3 rounds in most companies where you have a recruiter, a skill assessment, and a hiring manager round. So or if you go into a company like Amazon, then you probably get 2 more rounds after this, which are very similar to this. The takeaway from this slide is that apart from your skill assessment or your technical fit, all the other rounds that you do are behavioral questions. So even in this example, your technical skills is only maybe 20% of the role of the interview process. The remaining 4 rounds are non-technical, where you're talking to a recruiter, you're talking to a hiring manager, you're talking to somebody you're going to work with, you're talking to somebody else in the company. So technical skills are good, they are a must-have, but behavioral questions are equally important regardless of what role you're doing, and actually much more important than the technical skills. Now, next question for you guys: do you guys need a photo in the resume? I see one yes so far, a lot of no's. Big no for me. Yeah, perfect. I think, Narayan, the only thing I've said, like, you can put your photo in. The downside to that is that, if your formatting gets messed up for any reason, your resume's text will get, what do you say, jumbled up, and that will sort of work against you. Yeah, so similar to what Hina is saying, like, give a link to your like portfolio or a LinkedIn profile link, but don't add a photo. Like, photos, one, they are not needed. Two, it also affects, like, similar to what Ismail is saying, like, even for ATS to scan your resume, it becomes quite challenging. So, and the same also applies for like colorful, fancy templates that if you have them in your resume, they don't really work in your favor. They look glossy, they look shiny, but they don't, like, they make parsing or they make scanning of your resume a bit more challenging. So, now, in your interviews, like when you're talking, regardless of what round you're in, if you're talking about like roles and responsibilities, and if you just go on and on, or when somebody will ask you, tell me a bit about yourself, and you start reciting your entire work history in a chronological order, it is very boring to listen to all of that. And a recruiter, a hiring manager, somebody who's trying to assess you, they probably start thinking about something else. They stop taking notes. So your goal as a candidate is to keep them engaged, and don't talk for too long. Try to have, try to put answers, try to answer questions in a way where they will have follow up questions, because a recruiter or an interviewer can ask you questions. Based on what you answer, you can guide the discussion to another place. But if you have long monologues, like if you go on answering for 2, 3 minutes, that is not going to work in your favor. It will sort of dissuade and distract the interviewers quite a lot. And next question to you guys, like, what do you do when you don't know the answer for like to a question? Sorry, one second. Yeah. Wait, sorry, once. This mouse is not very friendly. Even though a lot of you are saying B and C, in the actual interviews, a lot of people try to come up with an answer even when they don't do it. So, where possible, either say, but like, when if you're saying B, just don't say you don't know. Say you don't know and ask questions, or a 5 second pause and see. Similar to what Sazelle is saying, like, saying no is like is okay. Saying that you don't know is fine, but don't leave it there. Say you don't know and ask some questions. Maybe you know the answer, but it's not striking you. So use it in your favor that it's okay. You can't know everything. Even when you prepare everything, you may forget, something may go wrong. But don't try to come up with fake answers. If somebody, most interviewers, if not all, will know when you're trying to come up with an answer on the spot. Unless you're very, very good at it, it will never work in your favor. Now, another thing to note is, like, when you go for an interview, and I'm saying 10% here and 90%, like 10% questions you may not find on the internet, and 90% you would. In reality, this is actually 99 and 1%. Regardless of what, like, unless you're going to OpenAI or you're going to like a very in-depth research lab in a company like Google X, not Google X, but some very secretive job in Google or SpaceX, where it's very niche. They need the best talent, not just in the city or a country, like they need the best talent in the world. There, maybe the questions are not known, but for every other interview, all questions are available on the internet. Sometimes you even know the exact questions that are going to be asked. So you have to spend time on the internet. You can find all the questions that will come in an interview. But even with that, a lot of people come unprepared. Like, they come to the interview without doing enough research on the company website, they doing enough research about the questions that are potentially going to be asked. Now, your most common interview type questions are three or four categories. Your technical, which is specific to your skills or the role that you do or something about your domain. Behavioral, a walkthrough would be like if you apply for a data analyst kind of a role where so, someone saying something. No, okay, cool, yeah. So maybe they've given you an exercise for home where you have to analyze a data set and then you're presenting it, and then like point number 2 and 4 is like behavioral and something about your experience is what 50-60%, if not 80% of your interview is going to be about. Now, what are sort of the three most common interview questions? Like this was not in trivia because I couldn't really put A, B, or C in this one, but in most interviews, regardless of what stage of the interview you're on, tell me a bit about yourself is the most common thing you'll get asked in every single interview round that you do. And most people give very bad answers for this question. The moment you ask about, the moment you ask somebody, or why are you looking for a change? That's another one. I'll cover that one as well. The other one, like when people say, "Tell me a little bit about yourself," they're not really expecting you to start that I graduated in 2006. My first company was there, second company was this, third company was this. Now I work here. They're not interested in their history. They've already seen your resume. They've already seen your LinkedIn profile. They know a lot of that information already. What you would usually do is talk about the place where you work right now, talk about something interesting you're doing in your current role, and say that you have, say, maybe 5 or 10 years of experience in the industry. And if you have worked at some companies which are very sought after or which are very popular, just throw in some keywords and names in there. You don't have to talk for 3-4 minutes when somebody says, "Tell me a little bit about yourself." Now, the question that Dadaram has there is like, why are you looking for a change? If you're already working somewhere and you get asked this question of why you're looking for a change, rather than saying that your salary is not good or you don't like the work culture, usually try and spin this around. So try and say that I was looking for some roles. I want to grow in my career, and say you got a role at TCS or you got a role at Wipro where you're interviewing. Amongst all the roles that you found in the market, this was a good fit for your skills, and the salary seems competitive in the market. So you want so try and talk about the company who is it, the company that is interviewing you, as opposed to the company that you want to leave. Because when you start talking about the company you want to leave, directly or indirectly, you will talk about either the work culture or the work pressure or things that you don't like about it. And that's not the kind of things that, like, they are true. Why you want to leave them, or maybe the compensation is not great, but you can easily spin it around and talk about the company that you're interviewing at and talk good things about them or talk about how the role is suitable. Yeah. Similar to what Sushant is saying, like, don't badmouth, like, you want to leave the company anyways. Talking ill about them is not going to serve you. Like, it's not going to help with your interview chances. That's the main takeaway from this. You can still talk about it, it's up to you, but it doesn't help your interview in any way. And like, I had one candidate when we asked him, he was saying that I'm looking for jobs because I was told that I'm very harsh with my direct reports. That people have complained a lot about me. Now he was a star candidate through the entire interview process. Towards the end, when he said this, that was a very big no for all of us. And like it was a straight off no because he ended up telling, and there may have been different reasons. Like he may have been a horrible manager because he had a lot of pressure from his manager, so he had to pass it on to his team. But the way he answered it was not really an ideal thing to do during the interview. Shakir, like where do you see yourself in 5 years? Um, if you're already working in a company or even when you're applying for an interview, what I recommend people tell them is like titles are great. Like if I'm say a developer right now, I want to be a lead developer in 5 years. I want to be an engineering manager. Saying a title is good, but if you're already through the interview process and you like the company, what you tell them is like what I tell a lot of people, something along the lines of that. As long as I have a competitive salary 5 years from now, and I'm given challenging work, I don't care so much about title. So if you're looking for an answer of what position or what designation I want to be, I can come up with some titles, but that's not really what I'm looking for. What I want to see in the role is that I have growth opportunities. I have not just like growth opportunities in terms of work that I'll get, but I also want to be compensated well for it. That's how you want to shape the answer about it. Um, we yeah, speak about opportunities to learn new skills. Uh, weak. Can you come off mute and explain what you're asking? I couldn't follow what you were saying.
No, I was checking if we can explain about the opportunities that the new role offers for us to learn the skills.
Not, I wouldn't advise that, because say if the interview is interviewing three people, the other two already have the skill, you don't have that skill, then that answer will work against you, because then they have to, after hiring you, they have to spend a few weeks training you for that skill. And
Understood.
yeah, so that's why, like, in some cases that may still be true. Like if you're a fresh grad from university, you may not have all the skills. That is possible. But if that's the answer you give, it's not a great answer that the interviewer wants to hear, even if it may
Understood.
be true. Yeah.
Thank you.
So how is Bharat's answer for this? Bharat, what are you saying? I say I've learned what was there for me. Now I'm looking for more challenges. Um, that answer is okay, Bharat, but it doesn't tell me a lot. Like if I ask you a question like that, where do you see yourself in 5 years, or why do you want to leave? Why are you looking for a change? Um, that's a very close question. Like it doesn't lead to a lot of things. But if you were to say, like if you were to flip it around in a way that I'm looking for this, like rather than why you want to live, if you wanted to flip that, you're looking for something, you're looking to learn this, or you're looking to work in this industry, or you're trying to move out of comfort zone, is not a great answer again, because um, comfort zone, like why, like don't try to how do I say this? Like the moment you say comfort zone, what you're also trying to say is that there's nothing challenging for me to do in my current role. I have a very basic, like a job where the role is very well defined. I come in, I do my job, I go home. It may be true, it's true for 60-70% of the jobs out there, but it doesn't come across as a good answer. And the reason why I'm saying talk about the interviewer or the company is because that way you can move the discussion there. You can get more pointers on what you want to ask or what you want to prepare for next round. Even though the question says, why do you want to leave your current role? Where do you see yourself in 5 years? You still want to try and move it to a place where you can have more discussion on that topic. Maybe the interviewer will start telling you about what projects they are working or what technology. Yeah, sorry, Bharat. Bharat, you can even come off mute and answer that. That's fine. What you meant was, I've worked hard and learned and understood all the SOPs. Yeah, it's um, the only, you can say that, Bharat, but it's the main point I'm trying to convey. It's still a very close-ended answer. It doesn't invoke any conversation from the interviewer. Like rather than saying open to more challenges, if you say something about the role or the company where you're interviewing, it shows that you're prepared well for the interview. That's the main thing that both that comes across. It shows that you're prepared well, and you also pick on some things that they might want to hear in other rounds. That's what I'm saying. Cool. Cool. Now, like when you're preparing for any interview, um, this is like a framework or a system that I tell people that don't index too much on the time that it's only 30 minutes or 60 minutes. But the main takeaway here is that when you have an interview scheduled, you have to first spend some time researching what questions could be asked in the interview. Talk to your friends, look at Glassdoor, look at Google, whichever way you want to research, but you have to understand what you're likely to be asked in the interview. The next part is you have to research the answers. And when I say research, don't just read about them. Try and draft your answer. Try and write them down on a paper, in a Word doc, wherever you feel comfortable, but try and actually write down the answers. And then the third stage is even more important, that you have to rehearse the answers. Either talk to your wife, to your husband, to a friend, a colleague at work. And we have Rupinder here. He's also in one of the participants. He has started a company recently. He's a co-founder in the company called Gradify, where they built a platform where it's an AI assisted interview preparation software where you can go in, you fill out, you set up your profile, or maybe Rupinder, do you want to come off mute and maybe just give us a quick overview of what it is rather than me trying to explain it?
Yeah, thanks, Vic. So, yeah, hey everyone. I've built this platform, joingratify.com. It's basically for people who have been struggling in getting out of one-to-one mentorships because they're very costly these days. Plus, what we are planning to build is like for whatever organization you want to prepare, this platform will help you do that. That feature is not launched yet. We are working on that. We are building that right now. Soon it would be available. And for example, you want to apply to a Latch Union, you want to prepare for, let's say, product manager role. You can simply go to this platform. You can select your target job role and then select the company, and then you would be able to get all the answers for that. So you can come to this platform. It's totally free of cost. We are giving away 3 free questions for the first place without signing up, and then you have to move forward for signing up, and then you will be getting another 2 questions for free for practice. It would be giving you the entire list of questions that you want to practice, plus it would also be giving you the areas of improvement for whatever answers you would be giving, and it's totally voice based. You don't have to type anything manually. It's like very user friendly. You don't even have to have the hassle of signing up as well in the first 3 questions. So please try it out and let me know if you think there can be any improvements. So I would love to hear that. Yeah. Thanks, Vic.
Perfect. Thanks, Rupinder. Cool. Just quickly check the chat. Yeah, okay. And Ismail has also pasted the link here, so feel free to go there. And Rupinder, could you also paste your LinkedIn profile here? So in case people have feedback or if something doesn't work, they can at least reach out to you and report what problems they're facing. Or if they have suggestions on how to improve it, they can let you know as well.
Yeah. So I've pasted my link, and we are also building a dashboard where you would be able to see all the progress, whatever you have done, and where do you stand. So we are setting a threshold of roughly 70 to 80% based on our understanding, like my understanding in the industry. So we are doing that. I'm open to feedback for that as well. If you think you have really done good answers and you're still not seeing that feedback or areas of improvement lack something, or you think that it's like of overdoing it, so let me know. I would be happy to rectify it for you guys, and I'll just work according to that way.
Perfect. Cool.
Thanks.
Thanks, Rupinder. Perfect. Cool. Now, yeah, coming back. Now, your interviews are basically like a stage performance. Like you prepare for your interview, you present, and you're judged. And the reason why I'm saying this is like if you go to a comedy show and the more the jokes resonate with you, the more obvious it is that the comic or the stand-up, like the person who's doing the show, has prepared them really, really, really well, so that they sound as if they are. He's just saying them. He's just saying something funny, but everything that entertains you, everything that hooks you, everything that engages you, has gone through multiple rounds of preparation, maybe sometimes even 50 rounds of preparation. And only then it is picture perfect that you really, really enjoy it. And the same has to apply for your interview as well. You can't just show up for an interview and expect to ace it without any preparation. Sorry. Cool. Now, this is like, what do you say, like an interview tip or any time. And it's not just an interview, like even if you talk to a recruiter, when you're trying to do a sales pitch, the person like with the recruiter or the hiring manager, regardless of what interview round you're in, your interviewers are asking you questions, but you get to choose how you answer. And the reason why I've like listed it out here, put it very clearly, is that people, what they think of interviews, just like a Q&A. I ask you a question, you give me the answer, and they want to close it and move on to the next one. And that becomes very boring. Imagine talking to a friend or talking to somebody at home, talking to a colleague at work, where you ask them something, they give you an answer, and the answer is a very close-ended answer. So it doesn't feel like human conversation is very open-ended. You want the other person to follow on. You want the other person to ask something, to engage. And for that, you have to leave placeholders. You have to leave open-ended questions. The basics of your conversation, that like of an interesting conversation, also have to apply here. So don't miss that in an interview. Don't think that you have to give picture perfect answers, and you have to give an answer where you answer the question and it stops. Cool. Now, a quick test for you guys. This was a question that I got asked in an interview. You can type your answers in the chat if you want. So in one of the interviews, I got asked this question. I just want to see what kind of answers you would give. Is nobody typing or I'm not seeing? Okay, nobody's typing. So, well, probably wait another second or two, then I'll share my answer. Okay. The way you answer how you remember is like out of the box. Who answered now? Um, Bharat, like, instead of that, like, could you tell me what you would answer if I asked you this question in an interview? Just type your answer as opposed to how you would answer it. Bharat, you're not sure. Miraj, your answer is pretty good. Um, I'll let one or two other people type in, but there's while they're typing, like Miraj, with your answer, the answer is good, but it still did not tell me anything about you directly, even though the answer sounds nice when you say it. So, like the interviewer, okay, my impact on customers compared to collaborator leaves a lasting impression. Okay, and I'll tell Miraj for your answer. I'll go into a bit more detail on why I'm saying what I'm saying. Okay, Sushant has something. Okay, Bharat, you're not sure on how you would answer. Let me see if anybody else has, or if anybody else is going to post something. Cool. The sense of humor while dealing with critical work-related meetings or like production issues where there's tense switches in the meeting room. Okay, perfect. Yeah. Yeah. So I think Hina, you are going in the direction that I want you guys to think about. Like when people talk about this, they want to hear like what do you say? They want to hear something that will either make them smile or make them resonate. Like, say, if it was a DevOps engineer role, then what makes you memorable is that you could talk about how you behave when there is a production issue or when there's an incident and the server has crashed. When when I got asked this question, this was my first because I knew I had to take time to think about it. This is what I told the recruiter, like told the interview that would do you mind if I take a few seconds to answer this? Because clearly I'm very well prepared for this question. The moment I said this, there was a smile on their face. It gave me time. It also helped me understand that I could give a funny reply. I could say something funny, and then I started saying my answer. So the message that I want to give away, the thing that I want you to. Sorry, someone is saying something. No, okay. The takeaway from this is like the recruiter is giving you the interviewer is giving you an opportunity to say something that will help you stand out. And Virat, that is why I was saying your answer is good, but it doesn't like if I interview 10 people, at least 5 or 6, if not 8, will give me a similar answer. So I will not really remember you for your answer. But if I talk about something that is very specific to you that I probably don't see in your resume. So if I said that what makes me memorable is that even though I'm very good at work, I'm very good at what I do, but I contribute all that not to my technical skills, but to the yoga practice that I do every morning, or the fact that I'm a certified yoga teacher, or like what you say is basically something that will be very sticky for the interviewer. That they will remember your name, they will remember. So they will remember Miraj as a yoga teacher. They will remember them as a bike enthusiast. They will remember you as somebody. So my answer was that what makes me memorable is that when things get very tough, I figure out that like when I'm left with no choice, I just go all in. So there was one time when I was coming back from Ladakh and we had to return the bike and we got stuck in riots in Kashmir. And because of that, we wasted the day. So we had to ride nonstop for 23 hours. That was my answer, Rupinder. So I used the question to narrate a story, which was also engaging, which told them a lot about me. And the recruiter and the interviewer will clearly remember me from that answer when they're doing like a review of all the candidates who applied for the role. So it always doesn't have to be about the work. It could be, you could talk about the skill that you need at work, but related to a personal story. That's how you can tailor your answer. Miraj, did my point come across? on why your answer was good but could have been better? Yes. And same for you, Sushant. Like, if you like with your answer, it is good, but again, I won't remember you after the answer. Like, if I go through 20 interviews, I will not remember your answer. What you want to try and do is say something that will make you stand out. That's the main takeaway from this, from questions like these. Like, you have to be very sticky with your answer. Cool. Now, body language. Now, a lot of people think that when they go into like an online interview, body language is not important. The it's not true at all. Body language is important, but when you go in for an interview, the like unless you're doing like a stage performance where a method actor will tell you that you have to walk in a certain way, chest has to be out, hands have to be in a certain posture. Like, that's one way of body language. But for an interview, body language comes from confidence in the answers that you give. And the way to get good body language is where you're very well prepared. Like, if you ask me a question and I'm prepared for the interview, I won't be like this. I'm not wondering what is going wrong. My body language will never be like this. If I'm already prepared, I will sound very confident. My hands will move. My eyes will become big. There will be a lot of gesture. There will be a lot of expression. So preparation will help you build that body language. You don't really have to build body language. What you have to do is do a lot of preparation. And then again, why this is important is an interview is probably going to have 5 interviews in a day or 5 interviews over that week for the same role. You want to make sure that they remember you at the end of the week when they're doing an assessment of all the candidates for the role. That's the main thing you want to do. Because if they forget you after the interview, or if your answers seem good enough, they will probably hire somebody or like move somebody to the next round whose answers were a bit better than you or who were more impressionable. That's the thing that you need to remember. I'll just quickly check in the chat. Yeah, perfect. Now, cool. Now, in the behavioral questions, you like as I was showing in one of my earlier slides that at least 70 to 80% of your interview is behavioral questions. And and I think I've been trying to not I think, but like I've been trying to hammer this message home that the only way to clear interviews is preparation. Like in my what 18 years of career, 16 to 18 years of career right now, there I've done a lot of interviews, like where I've conducted them. But even when the interviews I've given, there has only been one interview that I haven't cleared, and I've at least given 50 to 60 interviews in my career. There's only one interview round that I did not clear because I did not prepare well for it, or at least I knew like even during the interview I knew that I'm not going to clear it because I did not go well prepared. I was trying to come up with answers, but out of 50 or 60, it's only one. So the takeaway from this is that regardless of what the interview is, what the role is, you can prepare your way across the interview. You can go in, do your research, do preparation, and you always get enough time. And sometimes recruiters will try to schedule a lot of interviews back to back. If possible, try and ask for time in between interviews. Don't try to rush through them. It gets very exhausting. Don't try to do 5 interviews in a day with 5 different people. You'll get very, very tired, very, very bored, very, very exhausted. Now, this is an example from when I got hired at Atlassian. In the interview journey, the last round they do at Atlassian is the culture fit round, where you talk to somebody from the company. They're not in your team. They're not in the department that you're joining. They're completely different. They're in a very different part of the company, and they will come and have a chat with you for usually for 30 to 45 minutes. And 1 or 2 days before the interview, they tell you who is going to interview you. I really, really wanted to get into Atlassian. Like this was about 9 years ago. So when I found out who was going to do the interview, I spent maybe 1 or 2 hours just checking everything I could find about that person on the internet. I read their blogs, I read their GitHub repos, I read their LinkedIn profile, Instagram, Facebook, anything I could find about them on the internet. I read about it. I saw their comments on LinkedIn. I saw their comments on Reddit. Because I had finished at that stage, I'd already done 6 rounds. I really, really wanted to make sure I got in. So I researched everything and I found out that this person who was interviewing me is very fond of motorbikes. I found him in a lot of motorbike groups on Facebook, not on LinkedIn, Facebook and Reddit. And then they had recently done a cross country trip in the US on their motorbike. So At the start of the interview, when they were asking me, tell me a bit about myself, I started talking about my work. And then somewhere in between, I also throw in that I've taken a break in my career about a year ago. And when I did that, I'd done a 3 month long road trip in Ladakh with like me and my wife. We had gone on a 3 month long road trip, and I left it there in the intro. And then my interview, instead of 30 to 45 minutes, lasted about 90 minutes. But out of the 90 minutes, at least 30 minutes we were just talking about road trips and bikes. And the benefit I got by doing that, not that was the only reason I cleared the interview. I became a likable person in by with the mention of that and with the discussion about a road trip. Like I became relatable. They could see me as somebody they wanted to work with, and that's how I ended up like for clearing that round more than all the other answers I gave. That likability, that relatability was the key reason why I got hired for that role. Cool. Now, another interview question that you will get quite a lot is that how do you handle stressful situations? And before I go into like examples of like an interview answer I gave, I just want to see in the chat what like if you guys get this question in the interview, how would you answer it? Tell me about a time when you handled a stressful situation, or how do you handle stressful situations at work? And we only have a few slides, so this is probably one of the last questions I'm going to ask you guys by focusing on one task at a time. Okay. Dadaram, but like in an interview, how would you answer this? Like that's a very what do you say? It's a it's a way of handling stressful situation, but not really an answer like that will help you. So if it gets Sushant is saying if it gets too stressful, just shut it down if allowed. Come the next day with a clear mindset and see the magic. That is theoretically right, Sushant, but in like at work, if you have a incident like a production incident, I don't think there's a way to shut it down or hold it off till the next day. Revisiting every scenario that led to it, where the mistakes happened, where the stress arose in the first place. That's from Rupinder. Hina, taking a small break and talking to a colleague on the floor who may not be directly on my team, just to get cross opinion. Okay. Narayan, fraud company, platform down, multiple customer escalating, empathize with calmness. Okay, so like, so Hina, Rupinder, Narayan, like your answers are good, but again, if you had an answer, like if you answered this way, it's similar to what I was saying earlier that it's a very generic answer that half of the people, if not 70-80% of the people are going to talk about in the interview. That what you want to do is like, I think Narayan's answer is good. Hina, your answer is also good. But again, rather than like, that is how you would handle a stressful situation. But what will make it more impactful is if you decide the situation first. That is even more important on than actually how you handle it. Because that stressful situation will help you build that relatability with the interviewer. Like if you say something like when I got asked this question, what I explained was like what happened was back in 2008 when I was very young in my career, I was trained to do disaster recovery exercises. I was at the client side. I'd gone on site from India. I was in UK at the client side. It was a Friday evening, and one of the server crashed. And very unlucky for me that my team lead, who used to be the main contact point for the client, was on leave at that point. So I had to step in, talk to all the leadership on the client side, explain what was happening. And given I was very new in my career, I knew how the disaster recovery exercise worked. I knew what to do the server to get the server up and running, but I did not fully understand what comms were needed, how often you had to send comms. And I had to use my best judgment to try and figure out what to do in that case. And because I was much younger to them, maybe sometimes my language was not clear, I would get a lot of questions. So the message I'm trying to send home is that talk about the situation that can actually happen or that happened with you and walk through what you did in that situation rather than a generic answer. That will again leave a very strong mark in the interviewer's head. They will remember you after the interview is done. Cool. I'll move on to the next slide. Perfect. Now, when you are like done with everything, when you come to the end of your interview, a lot of recruiters will ask you, a lot of interviewers will ask you if you have questions. This is also a good opportunity to talk about like, you basically want to talk about the company that you're trying to join, the interviewer, the kind of work they do, talk about the projects. So don't, like, don't waste this opportunity to show that you're well researched about the company. That's the main thing you need to do at this point. You want to try and make sure that they know that you have rehearsed really, really well, you have researched really, really well, and you know a lot about the company you're interviewing at. Cool. I think, yes. So that comes to, that's everything I had, and I'll go to the Q&A in a bit. And if you guys, if you and I, like, if you're already not connected on LinkedIn, I would love to uh, connect with you guys there. So, and Ismail, who is the co-host here and who also has run all of this with me, who manages the business with me, I have his profile here as well. And there's a WhatsApp group that I have in here in between. This is a group where we help a lot of job seekers find jobs. We post a lot of jobs from recruiters from different job boards. And in the past year or two, we've helped over 400 people land jobs in different companies across the board. So would love for you guys to join here. And even though Ismail has been working with me for a very long time and he joins a lot of these webinars, he still doesn't follow a lot of the advice that I give other people. Like, on your LinkedIn profile, you want to have a headshot. He's heard me say this a lot, but recently he changed his photo and he went back to like a normal photo as opposed to a headshot. So there are obvious things that people would miss, even though they keep hearing it every day.
Yeah, I have to change.
Yes. Sorry. Didn't want to call you out, Ismail, but I think you deserved it. Yes.
Yeah,
Cool.
it is.
Now, before we go into the Q&A, uh, I also write resumes or help people do their LinkedIn profiles, write their cover letters. As a part of the webinar, if you want to avail that service, you can connect with me on LinkedIn and I'll offer you like a 30-40% discount. I also have a resume writing course. It's a short 30 to 40-minute course, very action driven, very, what do you say? It's like very to the point, has a resume template that you should use, has a lot of things that you need to do in your resume. And I've intentionally kept it very short that you don't have to spend hours and hours seeing the course, but it's a very short, straightforward course. Spend 30 minutes. It has a lot of things that I've covered here. I have a template that I walk through. I go through all the sections. And I know a few people here who've already done the course. So if you're interested, Ismail would also put a link for that in the Zoom chat. It has a promo code, I think, of about 40 or 50% off. And now we can go to our Q&A. I leave the QR codes here if in case you didn't get time earlier on. But now is your time to ask questions. We're done with everything from the webinar. I think there are no questions. Either there are no questions or people are not asking. Sorry. You can even come up. Yeah. Go on, Narayan. Sorry.
Can I go first?
Yeah, you go first.
Okay, sure, of course. I have a couple of questions. First of all, on the resume part, like, is the two-column layout preferred? Because like we generally go for a one-page resume, and considering it's a little difficult to put everything under the one page, so is the two-column layout preferred, or the ATS would like just block it, or it's not a preferred?
ATS would not block it, but if you have a two-column layout, depending on how, like, a short answer, don't use a two-column layout or a multi-column layout.
Okay.
It works against you, because even when I'm reading your resume, like, when you look at the resume, when you glance at the resume, it seems nice that you have skills on the side, you have your score, and you have everything else here. But when you actually go down to read it, you don't really read. It's not really a newspaper that you will read like this. So, where possible, I don't advise people to use two columns. I advise them to use a single column, like a straight, like it's in a book and not really a newspaper. And how many years of experience do you have, Narayan?
8 years.
8 years. So I think with 8 years, you should easily be able to fit your resume in one page. But if you're struggling, then even 2 pages are fine. I don't think you need to worry so much about, like, the 1 and 2 page is mainly a recommendation so that, like, so basically to tell you that a recruiter is not going to read everything. That's why the first page is what they will read. They won't even
That's
go
right.
to the second page. That's all. There's nothing more to it.
Okay, and I have a couple of more questions on this.
Yeah, go on.
Yeah, first of all, like you mentioned in the starting of the slides, like how to shortlist your best jobs, because I think I also facing a similar problem that putting in a lot of applications where the job role or your job description matches, but
Yeah.
apart from that, also not getting enough calls or might be what's the reason.
Yes.
So how to shortlist the best jobs?
So I think one thing that you have, one is that people have to have very realistic expectations that job search takes usually 2 to 3 months.
Yes.
Anything shorter than that is not realistic, especially in today's market. And even 2 3 months is becoming very challenging for a lot of people. So that's the first takeaway. When you, like, if you, on a given day, if you, like, what I tell people is spend the first 15 minutes of your day before you start your current job doing a job search and making applications, 15 to 30 minutes. On a given day, you will not find more than 2 or 3 jobs that are suitable, that you're suitable for. If you're finding more than 2 or 3, then you're fooling yourself. That's what I tell. So if you're
Okay.
only targeting 2 or 3 jobs in a day, because with 2 3 jobs, it's still possible to tailor the resume. If you're applying 20 jobs, you can't tailor your resume, and you won't even, like, with 20 jobs, you won't even read the job description.
That's right.
You look at the type. So if you narrow it down to 2 or 3 jobs, that will increase your chances greatly, as opposed to a lot of jobs every day.
Got it.
Yeah. Any more questions from you, Narayan?
Yes, actually, a couple more. Yeah, actually, like we do have the option of LinkedIn Premium of using cover letter, which is very tailor made for the job. So, is it a good idea to use that cover letter and just customize it, or it's not a good idea because it would be using a lot of AI and everything?
Yeah, I think one thing to remember is, like, using AI in a resume is not a bad thing, but if you use AI and don't proofread it, that's the problem.
Yeah,
Using
that's
AI is
yeah.
not the problem. So if you think that is making sure you are getting tailored cover letters, use it by all means. But if
Okay.
you're just going to take what the AI gave you and not make changes, that's when you will run into problems.
Yes, that I'm aware. And like, that's the last question? What's an ideal number of skills to put? Because considering like it's a huge years of experience and all the, what's an ideal number to put on the resume?
So the ideal number 7 to 8 is ideal. You can have that in 2 columns in the skill section. If you, so like 7 to 8, if your skills are running too much, like if it's taking too much space, then you can maybe put 2 columns in that skill section. I don't recommend that. A
Okay.
single column layout is still better, and 5 to 6 is usually good. You don't need more than that.
Okay. That's
Yeah,
all. Thank you so much.
perfect. Cool. Um,
Hi, can I
one
go
sec.
next?
Yeah, that's Tina, right? Yes.
Yes. So some of the common questions I think I've heard in my previous interviews that they ask that why are you leaving the current organization? That probably I can answer, like I can
Okay.
form my answers. But then why did you leave your previous organizations? And some of the recruiters wants to know all, like, so far I have
Yeah.
worked with the 4 organizations, right? So then how
So
best to answer that?
so one thing you can say is, like, one thing you can, so in some cases people would have moved cities. Okay. So in some cases you can, and if Hina, are you married?
No, and I have been in
No.
the same city so far.
So, like, for some people, what I end up telling them is either you can say that my husband or wife had to change their jobs, so I had to move cities. That's why I changed jobs. Or, like, some personal reason why you had to change a job. That's a very simple way to answer that. Otherwise, if the recruiters are very keen on why you left every single job, then you can either say that the compensation in the other job. So, like, for your current one, always answer about the company and why you want to work there. For the previous ones, you can talk about how the compensation was very good. You can say you got headhunted for a role and the opportunity was really good. You could say a senior or somebody you know who worked there referred you for a role. They knew your skills and they knew you were a very good fit. That's why. So make it sound like it was, like, it's not that you were in the market looking for roles, but you were handpicked for that role in one form or another, either through a referral or through somebody you knew or a personal situation, like something along those lines. Does that make sense?
Uh, yes. I think this helps. Thank you.
Yeah. And the other thing to note is the main thing the recruiter is trying to fish out is were you asked to leave because of some bad behavior, because there was a complaint against you? That's what they're trying to see. If some people end up saying that as well. That's the only thing. So as long as that is not the case, I don't think the answer matters that much for your previous roles.
Perfect. And I just have a couple of more questions.
Yeah.
So the another common questions I think we get asked is, what is the one of the difficult situation that you handled at work? Can you help describing? So it comes in the both the ways. One is behavioral wise and one is technical wise. So maybe
Yeah.
technical. So how that can be best in a short answer, that maybe the situation would be big, but then I'll have to summarize my answer in like 2 minutes, 3 minutes, not more than that. So it conveys the
So
message.
are you asking for tips on the technical one or the behavioral one? Right
If
now?
possible, both, because
Okay.
both the question gets asked.
Yeah. So I think for the technical one, it has to sound like it's a really like technical one. It can't usually be about say if you're like what role, like what work do you do in a?
Production support lead as of now.
Okay. So in production support lead, like a technically difficult situation would be when there was a release, it crashed something, or you had a release where there was a data leak, like something that will be relatable and that will seem like a catastrophe is what you want to talk about. Like a data leak is a good one, or a security breach is a good one. That could be a situation that you can say, or maybe a regression, like depends on how critical the other role is and how what do you say, like if you are in banking, data leak is a very big thing. If you are in a health sector, then some other leak. So depending on what industry you're applying, you can tailor the technical example like that. So, but always start with what happened and then explain it. So it has to, the first few lines have to be the most important bit on what was the difficult situation or what was the challenging one in the technical piece. Like, so either a bad release or some libraries gone wrong. So something along those lines. In the behavioral one, a difficult situation in some cases could be about you were told to give feedback to your peers, or you have a team reporting to you, and there were three people who were not performing well. So you had to give them some like you had to give them some feedback, some constructive feedback. That could be a situation that you could talk about, because, and the reason why I'm saying you can talk about that is like not everybody is comfortable giving like bad feedback to people when things are not working. Good feedback is very easy to give. Bad feedback is not easy to give. Or a stressful situation like a behavioral one would be that you were asked to present something to an exec or to a leadership team, and things went wrong with your presentation. You got wrong numbers in your slides. So you could have a non-technical example of that sort, depending on what your day-to-day work is, or depending on who you're talking to. If you're talking to a hiring manager, then it could be something along those lines. For a recruiter, it might be around, like, depending on whether you're talking to a recruiter, hiring manager, a team fit, you can tailor that example. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Perfect. Anything else from your side?
No, not as of now. Thank you.
Perfect. 1 second. I have Sushant. Yeah, I'm reading your question. You can even come off mute and cover this.
Sure, yeah. So for someone like me, who is on H-1B visa and a technical support engineer profile and an experience of close to 12 years, now I'm getting rejected when I answer the sponsorship question. I think you covered that. And if the question doesn't exist, if it's for a startup, then I get rejected post the first screening. And now, I mean, it's an era where things are a bit difficult in US, and yeah, so I'm on a time crunch being on H-1B with a 60 days grace period. So in such situation, what do you suggest? And also, it is pretty let me just complete. It's also pretty disparaging to hear that we only offer sponsorship for development roles and solution architects and not for tech support. And just to add, I was part of the restructuring layoffs which took place at Atlas on July 29th.
Yeah. So I think, Sushant, like in your case, what I would recommend is you will probably have a better chance relying on referrals as opposed to job applications directly, because with referrals, they sort of builds a chain of trust with the recruiter, with the hiring manager, that somebody has referred you for a role. So they're likely to consider sponsoring a visa as opposed to if you were just an applicant on the pool. That is one thing. When you're targeting startups, if you try and target startups that work in the same industry, say as Atlassian, so if you work in, like, if you try and target startups that are in the same space, that can work in your favor. If you try and reach out to recruiting, like hiring managers, and if you, like, just to make it work, you can offer to say, like, you can mention in a DM or when you talk to them that because you know you're like, don't mention the time crunch to them because that they will use against you. But say that because you need a visa sponsorship, you're okay to negotiate on the salary. You're okay to negotiate down. That might give you that initial sponsorship because right now sponsorship is more critical for you as opposed to anything else. So a referral, trying to look for roles in an area where your experience is 100% relevant and negotiating down the salary is what could, even though it's an unfortunate thing to do, but that might work for you with the situation that you're in.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you for the
Perfect.
information.
Cool.
I'll take it.
Yeah. Perfect. Bharat, I'm just reading. You can try and come off mute, and then if you're noisy, we can tell you. Is he there? Let me see. I don't think he's there, but okay, I'll just read his question. So it's what would you advise for someone like me who has very niche skill set or someone who's skilled in a very niche software? Like I said earlier, in my case, there are no very rare job posting. I get direct DS or recruitment and yes, so I think Varad, in your case, if recruiters are reaching out to you, then your LinkedIn profile is even more important than your resume because they're going to scan your LinkedIn profile to assess you before they ask for your resume. So for you, getting a good LinkedIn profile is key. Having a resume is also needed. And then, like when you're given that you're getting headhunted, you're getting recruiters reaching out to you. Why is it that you're not landing roles if you're still around? Because you're saying that you only have 2 years of experience, but you're still getting recruiters coming to you, which is not very common in today's market. Not sure if he's still here, but looks like he's dropped off. I think. I can see him, but yeah, he's probably on mute or something. Cool. I think we have 5 or 10 minutes left. If anybody has, I'll just quickly scan the chat to see if there are any more questions.
Vic, I have just one more thing.
Yeah.
Vic, can we have the recording of that session if it's possible?
Yes, I think Ismail would be posting it in through his YouTube channel. So wherever he posts it, yeah. Are you in the WhatsApp group?
I have
Narayan?
just joined.
You've just joined, yeah. So he'll share the link there. Once,
Sure.
Like,
Okay. Thank
the
you.
webinar will be posted. Yeah. Cool. I'll just probably wait for another minute to see if anybody has questions. Otherwise, we can wrap up.
I have a quick request. It's not a question, Vic. So, given the time crunch, you mentioned that you will take like 2 weeks to review my resume. So, I just had a quick request. If that's not much I'm asking for, if you can review that a bit sooner. So,
I'll do that tomorrow. I'll do that tomorrow. Don't worry.
Okay. Thank you so much, Vikram. This is really
not
helpful.
a problem at all.
Yeah.
Vic, I had one question from my end.
Yes. Okay, it's fine. Yes. Yeah.
Yes. So I've seen like many resumes where project section where you highlight your technical skills, your project details. Is it effective enough to get shortlisted if it is something which is aligning with the job description? Or we can go with the Git profile directly, which can get more traction.
I think if you have a project that you think is suitable for a role, your link to your GitHub is okay. But if the link to your GitHub is only going to show me a list of like 5 repositories, that is not a great. Nobody is going to go and look at your code, download it, run it locally. That is like, if you have a project, it should be a working project. There should be a URL where I can go and see the demo. There should be a video. That is the only way somebody is going to spend time looking at your project. Without that, nobody is going to look at your Git repo. So if you have a project that is going to help you, then it has to be a working demo available online. without a login available on the internet. Otherwise, it's pointless.
Yeah.
Cool. What you're saying, you're not trying to switch a company. Most of the time, your experience level is not there. The only requirement was that my experience. I have the interview, two interview. The only requirement was that was compatible with my experience level. I have the interview. So, Bharat, I think what you're saying is in a lot of cases, you don't get interviews because your work experience is less, but you've done one interview. You're currently in an interview where two rounds are done and you're waiting for the HR round next week. Is that correct? Sweet. Correct. Okay. And then, and then, but what's your question after this? Yeah. So what like if it is a new job that a recruiter is trying to reach out to you, then LinkedIn is more important given your skills are niche. If you're already in the interview process, then I think LinkedIn resume doesn't matter because recruiters are already coming to you. But the more you polish your LinkedIn profile, the better it will be. Even if you have less years of experience, you can sort of make up for that with showcasing things on your LinkedIn. So you can get a bit more active, start writing about things, start showcasing things. So that way, the numbers of years gap will not matter as much unless it's a compliance or a legal requirement that you have to have certain number of years. That's a different thing altogether.
Which
Perfect.
I had a
Yes.
question, which I got from like many experienced candidates. Like, if a candidate is sticking to a company for like a longer period of time, let's say 10 plus years, and then they are trying to switch, and then they come across a question saying, "Why do you want to switch now after 10?"
Yes.
So this becomes a little tricky. So uh, how should I answer this? If
I think, like, if you look at somebody like Sundar Pichai, if you're in a company for 10 years, don't leave after that. That's when you start growing and you make a lot of money. So, like, not as a joke, but like, if you're staying long enough in a company, stay there because you see some prospect, you see a lot of growth, you see a lot of compensation. So, if somebody is staying in a company for 10 years, the two reasons should be that you're getting very good career growth and you're getting a lot of money. Like, otherwise, don't stay in a company that long. And after that, when you start looking, again, like, if a recruiter is wondering why you want to change, talk about, like, if you were, say, interviewing for a role at Atlassian, say that Atlassian has been your dream company for the past 5, 6, whatever years, and finally a role came up that matches your skills. And it's not so much that you're in the market for a new role; it's more that you want to work for Atlassian. So try and twist it around to talk about the company that you're applying for. Hina, yes, you can come off mute and ask it.
Thanks, Vic. So I think I missed the initial 5 minutes of joining this. So can I send my resume as well for your review if you have some bandwidth? Because I've got my resume professionally written and I'm very actively looking for a job since last 1 month. But I think an ATA score and everything on ChatGPT and AI says the resume score is more than 90%. But somehow my resume is not getting shortlisted. So I'm not sure what's missing. Probably if I could have a review.
Yes, I think you can just add me on LinkedIn and send it there. Just a heads up, like past 2-3 weeks, I've gotten a lot of resumes. So it'll take me a few days. I'll get back to you sometime next week. But just add me on LinkedIn and send the resume there.
Yeah, definitely. It's not super urgent. Next week would do, but then I'm like just wondering that what is missing. Thank you. That would help.
Perfect. Cool. Perfect. And then, one follow-up question for you. Where did you get your, when you said you got your resume written, like, are you based in India? Where are you based? What part of India?
I'm based in India only, and I got my resume returned from the same group which Ismail is currently running on WhatsApp group. So somebody was offering on that group only, and I got it just done last month only.
Okay, perfect. Cool. Thank you. Cool. Okay. Yeah, let's just quickly check. Yeah. I think we don't have any more questions coming in. Okay. Perfect. Cool. I think that's it then. I'll give everybody 2-3 minutes of their time. And if you have questions, Ismail will share the recording sometime today, or not today, but sometime tomorrow or during the week. And do add me and Ismail on LinkedIn. Join the WhatsApp group. And if you have questions, do write to us. And if you need help with the resume, whatever help you guys need, do feel free to reach out. Perfect. Cool. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you so much for this. Really means a lot. Thank you so much.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you,
Bye-bye.
Vic. Thank you.
Thank you. This was really helpful. Thanks.
Bye.
Take care, guys.
Bye. Stop recording.